Hello Internet, my name is Andrew Eder, and welcome to another episode of Film Editorials. The fourth film in the Transformers series, Age of Extinction, comes out this weekend, and to prepare myself, I watched the first three installments in the series, so that you don't have to. Today's video is going to be a review of the first three films in the Transformers franchise. Transformers the movie, Transformers Revenge of the Fallen, and Transformers Dark of the Moon. Next week's going to be Transformers 4 Age of Extinction. Make sure you subscribe to my channel to know when that comes out. The three films that have already been released star Shia LaBeouf as Sam Witwicky, a human who discovers two factions of sentient alien robots who... really the plot doesn't matter. I don't care about the plot, you don't care about the plot. I'm pretty sure Michael Bay didn't care about the plot when he was directing the movies, and the plot doesn't make sense anyway, either individually in each film or as a whole series, so let's just not bother with it. What you really need to know is that there are humans, there are robots, there's some fighting, and then there are explosions. Not necessarily in that order, but that's kind of the order it goes in. At this point, I've done quite a lot of movie reviews, but I don't think I've ever completely dismissed the plot before, so that should tell you something about the quality of these films. Generally speaking, they're just really bad. Yeah, you can find good things in them, and there are parts that are entertaining, but if you watch all three of them back to back to back like I did, it's a painful experience. I would not recommend doing that. Saying these movies are bad isn't particularly helpful though, so I'm going to go through the 6 main questions you ask about something to give a more detailed analysis. Those 6 questions are who, what, where, when, why, how. The main players in these movies can be divided into 2 broad categories. Category 1 are the humans, Category 2 are the sentient alien machines known as Transformers. The humans are mostly centered around Sam Witwicky, played by Shia LaBeouf. There are his parents, there are his 2 girlfriends, there are various members of the military and the government that he encounters along the way. The problem with all these humans is that I don't like them as characters. I don't care about any of them. I don't think it's because I'm, callous and mean. It's just because none of these characters are interesting. Michael Bay, or maybe it's the writer's fault, I'm not sure where to throw the blame, tries to make them funny, except they're not funny. It's just annoying and obnoxious. I kinda care about the 2 guys in the military. They seem to lead interesting lives and have interesting reactions to what's going on around them, but they get so little screen time, you can't be invested in them. And then, their personal relationships get thrown away to talk more about, Sam's Chihuahua. Great, just what I wanted to hear about. A Chihuahua. Personally, I find the Transformers themselves much more interesting and compelling characters, because they never get time to talk about their motivations or what they're doing or why they're doing what they're doing. They just kind of stand there, give exposition about the plot, and then blow stuff up. Then the other problem, of course, is that half the time you don't even know which robot is doing what. The Decepticons, the bad guys, are almost uniformly black and dark gray, and then while the good guys have bright colors and stuff, some of them aren't, and then lots of times it's just colors and action and explosions and the camera's shaking all over the place and you have no idea what's happening. This complaint is usually lodged most strongly against the first movie, but it's true in the other 2 as well, and it's just a mess. So what are these characters doing? Now, each film focuses on finding some ancient alien artifact that is buried on or near Earth. Depending on your definition of ancient alien artifact, this means that there are between 3 and hundreds of artifacts they have to discover over the course of the series, which is an awful lot for a species that has just visited the planet now, except for that other time, and then for that other time, and then apparently for all those other times too, because, like I said, the plot doesn't make any sense. The next important question is where, and this is one of my personal pet peeves about these films, because Michael Bay seems to be incapable of creating a sense of space. Yes, they shot these movies all over the world, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because there's no spatial relationship between any single element of the film. None whatsoever. In the first movie, they fight in downtown Los Angeles, which they don't call Los Angeles for some reason until the second movie. I don't know where all the action is taking place in relation to each other. I mean, there's the one building that's kind of the focal point of the action, but that's not in it for half the time, and then there's this other building that people get thrown through. I don't know what's going on. The whole action scene is confusing. I mean, you get to look at all the pretty colors, but you don't know where anything's happening. In the second movie, the filmmakers literally move the pyramids of Giza from Giza, Egypt, right outside Cairo, to the other side of Egypt, as a country. Just move them across just so a riddle in the plot makes sense, which, I mean, it's got 4 lines devoted to it, this riddle, this puzzle they have to solve. It's like putting the Golden Gate Bridge in Washington, D.C. Why would you do that? Speaking of Washington, D.C., they decide to go out the back door of the Smithsonian and suddenly they're in a desert. That's not how that works. If you've never been to Washington, D.C., it's not like that. At all. And it's annoying. The third movie has pretty much the same problem that the first one did. They do a lot of fighting in Chicago, and they keep talking about how they're on the wrong side of the river. But then you never see them cross the river for when the things that they're supposed to be doing are being done, and it doesn't make sense. Why would you mention the geography if you're not going to address it later? I don't know why this issue of geography bothers me so much. Maybe it's because I was a history major in college, and I just want everything to make sense in the real world. And you're using real locations some of the time, like the Pyramids of Giza. They actually shot there. So why would you lie about their location? It doesn't make any sense. All the movies are set in the present day, so the issue of when really isn't that important. So instead I'm going to talk about the emotional timeline of this movie. In the first movie, Sam's in high school. In the second, he's in college. In the third, he's graduated from college and looking for a job. When the first movie came out, I was in high school, and so I connected with that part of the character, and that really uncomfortable awkwardness felt kind of familiar. Watching it now, it has not aged well. The emotions don't ring true anymore. Maybe I've grown up, or maybe the movie's just terrible and I didn't recognize it at the time. The scenes from the second movie where he's in college were terrible at the time, even though I was in college, and they have not gotten any better. So that's just, poor writing and poor directing. And then the third movie, it's a bit darker, it's a bit more mature, he has graduated, and that still rings true a little bit. Some of the issues presented there still seem relevant, and so that aspect of the third movie was actually pretty strong, especially compared to the other two. Now we come to the question of why, and I think this is going to be the most frustrating thing to come away from these movies if you watch them. The question of why never gets answered. You can ask it about a lot of different elements of these movies, and there are no answers. You'll have lots of questions, and the movie won't answer them, and then it'll make you ask more questions. And not in a good, existential self-examination kind of questions, but just why is this happening? What's going on here? Where did these guys come from? There are so many questions. So many plot holes, so many plot gaps, so many logical leaps you have to make to get through these movies. It's just so frustrating. And now we've arrived at the question of how, and we can actually talk about something positive about these movies. The technical prowess of the people who created these robots, digitally, practically, the explosions, again, digital and practical, is truly impressive. The effects in these movies look amazing, and the sound is pretty good. I mean, it's very specific sounds. The sound for the transforming of the robots is, again, specific and particular to this kind of movie. These effects are not in service of the plot, they are there for their own sake, so you have to enjoy them when they show up. If you're a person who doesn't like explosions or cool sound effects, these movies are going to be torture for you. If you love explosions, then you're going to like these movies 5 minutes at a time. Every few minutes or so, there's another explosion and an action scene, and you can enjoy it. That being said, and despite the sheer number of special effects shots in these movies, they're not satisfying enough to make up for the fact that the rest of the movie is terrible. The awful dialogue, the awful acting, the insufferable characters, and the comedy that Michael Bay thinks he's presenting, they're just terrible things. And the 5-minute fight scenes don't make up for it. They really, really don't. Now, I have to admit that I've seen these movies more than once. Rewatching them now was not the first time I've rewatched them. It's probably not even the second time I've rewatched most of them. So why do I keep coming back to these? And I think it's because there's actually a potential to tell a good, interesting, exciting story here. The first Transformers movie got the closest. The relationship between Megatron and Optimus Prime, the two main robots, is interesting, and they need to develop it more. There's a story there that can be told, but Michael Bay just chooses not to tell it for whatever reason. I'm hoping that the fourth movie follows the trend set by the third movie, going with a darker, more mature tone, but honestly, I'm not particularly optimistic about it. I think that's going to be it for today's video. Thank you for watching. I know a lot of you have wanted me to really rip a movie to shreds, and I think I've done that at this point. Let me know what you thought of this series down below in the comments. That ought to be a fun discussion. Please don't forget to like, favorite, share, subscribe, follow me on Facebook and Twitter, and I will see you guys next time, where I'll be reviewing Transformers 4, so that'll be fun, maybe, hopefully. Bye.